Okay, let's create our first transaction. We could do this by just clicking that create button at the top. And for this demo, let's assume we are entering a property that we've just listed. So we'll enter some basic information about the property. We can use this auto lookup address feature here. And then now we need to select the transaction status. Typically for new listings, this would be like coming soon or active. I will point out though that the property statuses are completely customizable in the admin area. So if you want to change, delete, or add new statuses, you can do that. Then we need to select a side. So for this, we'll do seller side. And then once we do that, we need to enter a list price and some other dates if we know them. Now, most importantly, we need to assign this transaction to one or more users in our account. Now, a quick word about users in AFrame. We have two types of users. We have standard users, and then we have managed agents. Now, standard users can log in, they can change data, and you're charged a monthly fee for each one. However, managed agents are completely free. Now, these are ideal for independent TCs or a brokerage back office because managed agents can't log in and they can't change data, but they can be assigned to transactions and they can receive updates on those transactions and, of course, view their agent portals. So for this example, let's go ahead and assign an agent. And then if you're a TC, you almost always want to select your name under the TC1 spot. Okay, so that's it for creating a new transaction. Now that we've added our first transaction, let's go back to the dashboard. And now you can see that it's in our list. And then we can get right back into it by clicking the address. Okay, so this is the transaction detail page. And this is designed to hold all the information related to a transaction from start to finish. The top section shows you some basic information about the transaction, the address, which we can edit here. We can see who is part of the transaction. Of course, we do still need to add that seller information. And then other information that we've entered already, like the side, the status, the list price, etc. So at a high level, you can see that custom fields for the transaction are over here on the left. And then you can see any and all dates for the transaction over on the right. And then that middle section is where everything else happens. So let's go ahead and take a look at each section individually. So that information section over on the left contains all the data you want to store with a transaction. These fields are completely customizable in the admin area, and you can organize them by collections at the top. And then each collection can have any number of groups. And then under each group, you can have any number of fields. So for this transaction, you can see we could enter like the MLS ID, and this happens to be a text field that we can enter data into. We can also set, let's say, the occupancy, and this happens to be a drop-down field with some predefined choices that we set up in the admin area. And then finally, we have a third type of field, which is sort of a long formatted text area in the remarks section. A couple of other things that you can do with fields. We can add a color to draw attention to any entry. We can copy the value to the clipboard by using the drop-down menu. And then any of these fields can be merged into an email or letter template by using the merge field code. So pretty cool here. All right, now let's start setting up the transaction in the middle section. Now the nice thing about AFrame is you aren't locked into any predefined workflow. So if you don't want to use tasks or you have no need for uploading documents or attachments, you can literally just ignore these tabs. But I'm going to walk you through each one just to demonstrate what is possible. Now the task tabs allow you to create task or action plans for a transaction. Now we could certainly create a single task, but using templates is definitely the recommended way to go. So let's go ahead and click this Use Template button. And in the pop-up modal, you can see we can apply one or more task templates to this transaction. Now, all templates in AFrame are completely customizable. You can change, you can add, you can delete any template in the system. But luckily, all new accounts do come with some predefined templates to use as a starting point and sort of get you started quickly. So let's go ahead and apply this template here. And so in applying this template, we now have our 20 or so things that we need to do in order to bring this listing to market. Now these are already assigned to the correct user in our account and they're due at the appropriate times. A few features I will point out is tasks can be organized by folder, as you can see here. Or we can also switch to the date view if you prefer that. You can complete tasks easily by just checking them off. We can snooze or change the due date. We can add a priority. We can toggle reminders. And then we also have the option to show or hide them on the agent or buyer seller portals. And last but not least, we could add any number of notes underneath the task if we want. Now, tasks can also be associated with an email template. So with like one click, we can generate the agent intro email with all kinds of merge field codes filled in. Additionally, merge field codes autofill on the fly. So by pressing that $, we can easily find the data we want to merge just as we type. And you can also define multiple custom email signatures. So if you're an independent TC and you want a special signature for a particular agent, you can actually set that up in the admin area and select it here. Finally, we can either send this email now or we can schedule it to be sent later. Now, a quick word about email. AFrame allows you to integrate with your existing email accounts. So whether you have one or more Gmail, Outlook, or Apple accounts, when you send email through AFrame, it will be sent directly through your personal account and be available in your Sent Items folder. Now, if you have a team, you can also set up AFrame to share email integrations, which would allow you to send emails for others in the same account. I also want to mention that task due dates can auto adjust based off any other date in the transaction. So if you have a task based off, let's say, the listing date, and then you change that listing date later, all the associated tasks will adjust as well, which makes this a really nice feature. Okay, let's move on to the Attachments tab. Here you can upload as many files or actually web links too, if you want, for the transaction. So you can either add them with using this plus button, or we could literally just drag over a bunch of files from our desktop. However, if you do like to be more organized, you can also use a template in this area. Now, the attachment templates allow you to easily create placeholders for files that you need to collect over the course of a transaction. So let's go ahead and apply this template. And now you can see several placeholders that need to be filled in. So now we can start to fill in those placeholders with files, or we can literally just check them off as complete if we wanted to do that. But the nice thing about having your files in your transaction is now we can easily send them to anyone by just selecting them and then clicking email. Or another cool feature is we could select everything and zip all of these files to a single file and send them off to our agents or anyone else for their archives. Now, like tasks, attachments can be organized into folders. You can add notes, and then you can also show or hide them on each of the portals. All right, moving on to dates. A huge part of your job is to track the dates in a transaction. Now, this becomes exceedingly difficult when you have to manage 5, 10, or even 100 transactions all at the same time. So when taking a new listing, you usually don't have to track a ton of dates. But once it does go under contract, this tab obviously becomes extremely useful. So for this example, let's go ahead and pretend now that we are under contract. And I'm going to go ahead and apply a template that I created, and it happens to match the Texas real estate contract. Now, here's where you can start to see the power of AFrame's date feature. In this pop-up modal, we could set dates manually, but a better option is to use AFrame's date formula feature. Here you can set the date delta, which is the number of days before or after a certain date, and then use a custom date calculator to adjust by, let's say, business days or calendar days, etc. And then finally, you set the reference date. So for example, this date will always be 5 business days after the effective date or contract start date. It also makes sure you'll never get a date wrong when setting up your key dates. And if you have to change a date later, like the contract start date here, then all the related dates will change as well. Another awesome thing about our Dates tab is if you have email integration set up with Gmail or Outlook, these dates will just magically appear on your calendar. And if you want to send a calendar invite to anyone else in the transaction, you can just select all the dates you want and then click that invite button. This will send them a standard calendar invite and it will actually auto adjust if the date ever changes from within AFrame. Okay, let's take a look at the Participants tab. The top section we already filled in when we added the transaction. However, below this, we'll want to add any other contacts like the buyer or seller, maybe an escrow officer, a lender, an appraiser, really anybody that you want. So let's go ahead and add that seller to this transaction by first selecting the role. And if the contact's already in our database, we can simply just start typing and search for them. Otherwise, we can go ahead and add them on the fly here. Now, as you add people, you can then use their data in merge fields. So if in an email you needed to reference that escrow officer's phone number, you can do that by adding them in this section, and then of course using the appropriate merge field code in any email. As with almost everything in AFrame, you can customize or add the roles that you need. And you can also hide or show each participant on the portals by just toggling one of these two icons. The Emails tab is just going to show you all emails that you've generated from within AFrame. And currently, AFrame doesn't receive the email responses, but we are working to change that. So hopefully that will be added sometime at some point in the future. Now, the Notes and Activities tab is where you can sort of just add any note to the transaction. But as a listing agent, you might want to add other activities like showings, showing feedback, open houses. Maybe you did like a social post and you want to provide a link to that post in sort of the log. You can log all of those things here, and then you can decide to show or hide them on either one of the portals. And if you or maybe the agents that you service use showing time, you can actually set up AFrame to import all of those showings and feedback data for each listing, and they get logged right here under this tab, which is a really cool feature. That information can then be displayed on the client portals. The Payouts tab allows you to track basic contact or commission information. And then finally, we have this Miscellaneous tab. Now, I've mentioned our portals a few times throughout this demo, so I'd like to show you what they look like. As I've mentioned, AFrame provides two different portals, one for buyers or sellers, and then we have another one for your managed agents. To be clear, setting up a transaction does not automatically email anyone or provide access to the portal, and this is on purpose. But when you want to provide access, you can either include a link to their portal in like an email template, or you can manually do it here by clicking the email portal link button. But let's take a quick look at the managed agent portal. Now, this is the portal that will keep your agents updated on all of their transactions. It can be a huge selling point to your agents if you're an independent TC. Now, on the dashboard, they can conveniently see all of their open transactions. They can see upcoming dates. They can check out their current pipeline with some fun statistics like their on track for numbers. They can see more details of any transaction. And then once they're in the details section, they can see the information that you have chosen to show them. So in this example, you can see the transaction dates, you can view or download files, you can see participant information, notes, emails, etc. You'll also notice up here on the right that the agent's company and logo information are displayed, which is kind of fun. Uh, your agents can also view analytics. So by clicking here, they can view analytics in some different formats. And then last but not least, they can access old closed transaction data if they need to. Now let's go back and we'll take a look at the buyer and seller portal. And it's similar to the portal we just saw, but with data that's a little more appropriate to buyers or sellers. Now on their transaction detail page, they can see, view the notes and activities. They can download files, and they can see any contract details that you've chosen to show them. And of course, you can brand it with the primary agent's logo and information.